My friend Mr. Mike Howard, CSO, formerly, you're retired now?
No.
Oh, you're not retired yet.
I'm not retired yet.
Oh, well,
don't retire me
Microsoft?
too soon yet.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your new marriage.
Thank you.
Stuff.
Appreciate
Fabulous.
it. Yeah.
So you're with the CSO program here,
Yes.
and with training with the ASIs. So we've talked to a couple of people about that.
Right.
And right before we started talking, we talked about how you're really working with them to get this from into a virtual environment, a digital environment. Talk about that.
So, if you look at global security at Microsoft, we've been going through this transformation process. Maybe 12 years ago, we started off with building out a GSOC, Global Security Operations Center, and a lot of people have GSOCs now.
Right.
I think we were leaders in that field for the longest time. Now we're actually morphing into a more virtualized environment. You've heard about cloud computing,
Right.
obviously, and companies are going into the cloud more and more because you can transmit data faster, more secure, et cetera, and a lot of companies have that. Well, we're actually taking it probably one step further, where we're going to be able to use big data, artificial intelligence, the cloud, put it all together into some algorithms so that rather than have humans actually having to make all the decisions about what's going on in the world, the machine learning will actually be able to flag us ahead of time about maybe looking out over here, looking over
Right.
here, and so we can be more proactive as opposed to reactive when it comes to getting ahead of situations, right? And dealing with world events. As you know, we're dealing with a lot right now.
Right.
So that's kind of the impetus, and one of the things that, as I get CSOs and other peers that come to Microsoft to benchmark, and again, I always say we don't have all the answers. We learn as much from people who come to benchmark as hopefully they learn from us. But one of the things is we're trying to help other CSOs and other organizations on their own respective journeys. Some are well advanced in their operations centers and are maybe ready to absorb this kind of a digital transformation. Others are not, and so we try to help folks all along the way so that we all kind of, all boats rise.
Right.
That's what we're
Now,
trying to do.
you're fortunate to work in a tech company, and a lot of CSOs aren't in tech companies.
Right.
Are you finding that the C-level guy is he's coming along to the tech side? He wants to, but he doesn't have the skill set. Or what is the gap there? There's a gap, isn't there?
There is. I think part of it is demographics. That's just my optic, right?
Okay.
We're seeing a demographic shift where you have like old guys like me, like so baby boomer types that came out of the U.S. government or law enforcement, intelligence, military. And we've traditionally had these positions. And technology wasn't necessarily our strong suit. We had other
Right.
core skills. Now that we're moving on, retiring and all these other types of things, I'm glad you mentioned the retirement. I was going to think, I didn't realize I was retired already. That would be nice, actually. But you see, so the millennials and the Gen Xers even coming in with more of a technology skill set and more emphasis on utilizing technology to help the physical security business. You're starting to see that gap being filled.
Right.
But you still have legacy folks that are really shy about it and don't know how to reach out. And that's another reason why we come to events like ASIS. Not just my team, but other, I think, CSOs with a tech team. So we can actually not just learn, but we can also help other folks who are in that journey, right? Because we don't want to hoard everything to ourselves.
Right.
We have to share the wealth because, crisis situations, we're all exchanging information, intelligence, and hopefully best practices so that we can all keep each other safe.
Yeah, I find that similar things. So I have this white hair because I'm a certain age group. And so my contemporaries are chiefs.
Right.
Right. And my buddy at Culver City, hey, Scott, you want to come do the show?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I don't need all that stuff. I don't, social media, nope. Technical stuff,
yeah.
nope, right?
Right.
Old school, and they don't get it. But what I found in the decision making, like if I was a buyer
Right.
at Fox and Disney, right, I knew more about the tech stuff than some of the sellers did.
Right.
Depending on their age group, because it might be my age.
Right.
And this is the gap. So I grew up with, color TV was magic because we had black and white TV.
Right.
And I had a computer in 1984. My kids, they think this is all, well, have we had smartphones forever? So I don't find them, one's got a master's degree, one's got a nursing degree. I don't
Right.
find them going into the IT world because it's not interesting to them.
Right.
Where it's magic to you and me, right?
Right.
So that gap is that group of people that are C-level people that are decision makers that want to understand the technology. They weren't around when it came on their, to their front desk, and it's hard to
Right.
make that bridge. Do you find that the millennials, while they want to come up and they will know the knowledge, do they have a different style? and do they have a different management approach as a C-level executive? Because I'm thinking they're not old school management like you and I would be.
Right. They are, but it's interesting. This conversation comes up a lot, especially at ASIS at different forums about millennials. I have one top-notch millennial, Samantha, who's my business manager, and we have this discussion all the time. There is a certain sort of mindset about wanting to get ahead and wanting to be recognized constantly,
right.
Be recognized, and that's fine. There is that adjustment on their part to how companies are traditionally being managed at this point, because again, we still have legacy folks
right.
of a certain demographic that are running the companies, but even that's changing too, right? I remember one of the biggest things that struck me when I first joined Microsoft, it came right out of the 22 years in the government, and everyone's got white hair if you're of
right.
a certain level, right? And then you saw VPs that were like 30 years old, 35 years old, and it's, again, that's another thing that CSOs, especially or legacy CSOs, should think about or have to really prepare themselves for, is the fact that a lot of the folks that you may be working for are going to be younger, and they already have that technology mindset.
Very good point.
Right.
Difficult to transition to that.
Right. And so they're going to expect you as chief security officer to make sure that you're staying up ahead on the latest and greatest technology.
Right.
But I always warn CSOs too, you have to have the strategy before the technology. That's what got us in trouble 15 years ago, because we came to places like this and we'd see all these wonderful widgets, and we'd put the widgets into our old operations center, and it just was a mess.
Right.
So strategy before the technology, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what keeps you up at night? What does Mike Howard worry about in either the corporate world, security world? What's the next big thing you think is coming?
Yeah, so, there's a combination of things. I think, and it's not just because we've had recent hurricanes and natural disasters, but just the overall preparedness piece. We have teams that train, and we have incident management teams that are ready to deploy around the world. We're working, all the different hurricanes right now in the aftermath. But whether you're actually prepared enough and whether you have enough collaboration between all the different groups within a particular company, Microsoft, for instance, that you can collaborate and collapse and work on a situation. We have that, but I think everyone could be better at it in terms of that preparedness piece. But I think that advent of, what do you want to call them, the lone shooter, the lone actor, right? A few years ago, it was Al-Qaeda, command and control structured to a certain extent.
Right.
Then it morphed into ISIS, which was less command and control. Now you're getting people who are, for lack of a better term, radicalized or what have you, influenced to do bad things, and they may not be part of any particular organized cell. So hence, they take a car and run over a bunch of people across the bridge.
And how do you plan for that? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you actually plan meaningful for that, and how do you get your employees prepared for something that could happen like that, right? So I think those things are keep me up at night. But the other piece of that is that keeps me up is this whole. We talked about it 10 years ago. They called it Convergence, right, of cyber and
Yes,
physical.
Convergence. Yes, right.
And back then, the idea was having this Uber CSO, right, that did everything. And in some cases, they have that. In most cases, not. But as you're finding, as we go through this digital transformation in companies, and as you're seeing more and more need for synergies between the physical security CSO and the chief information security officer and their teams. 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. They only get together when the balloon goes up.
Interesting.
They triage, go back to their corners. And there's any number of reasons for that.
Yeah.
Institutional, personality-wise, blah, blah, blah. We're lucky at Microsoft. We've got a great relationship with our CISO. But I know that this is something that keeps a lot of CSOs up, as well, in terms of, okay, what is it that we can lend from our toolkit that can enhance the digital security of a particular corporation? Because I know that even though C-suite leaders are interested in physical security issues, obviously, especially if there's a shooting or something
right.
like that, they're really interested. I think top of mind for them is protection of their intellectual property.
Right.
Right. And so the CISO in their world obviously probably gets a lot more attention in many cases on a daily basis
right.
than the physical security CSO. But how we prepare ourselves to make sure we can supplement the CISO and his or her team is really important. And I don't think we're there as an industry yet. So you
Yeah.
know, that's kind of a rallying cry, and that's keeping me up at wake at night, too.
I think exactly the same thing. And the irony is, we have more technology than ever to communicate, and we communicate less in some ways.
Yeah,
That's the weird part about it.
Yeah.
You know, the CISO and the CSO should be, you know, connected at the hip,
Yeah.
digitally, all kinds of and it's a silo thing still a little bit. Now, you're a CSO, but you do a lot of CISO stuff inside your own organization, your GSOC and things, right? How closely do you work with the CISO in Microsoft?
Okay, we're very close. I mean, we're also good friends too, but our teams really work closely together.
Yeah, which is unusual in the corporate world in a way, right?
It is.
Yeah.
We've had a governance structure which includes physical, cyber, as well as some of the other business groups that have security responsibilities for like for Windows and Office.
Yeah.
As part of this governance structure. But one of the things we've been working on for the better part of a year is I've tasked a lot of folks on my leadership team to get together with the CISO's team, because I wasn't convinced that at a tactical level necessarily we were connecting the dots on a regular basis the way we should. I think it's better than a lot of companies, and
Right.
strategically we certainly are there. And so there's a white paper that's been developed between both teams in terms of how we can one of my guys talked about not a convergence of roles, but a convergence of talent and capabilities. So what is it that we can lend, as I said earlier, to their side of the spectrum and vice versa? And so we're formalizing all this. And we do joint exercises together. And at Microsoft, the CISO also owns enterprise risk. But we tie into that because we own the incident management team structure.
Oh, good, all right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so by building exercises within our incident management team capabilities, which we own, which in most cases are life safety kind of exercises, but baking in business continuity and those kinds of responses that fall up under the CISO's world, it builds them some more muscle memory too in terms of how to manage crisis situations. So we're tag teaming on a lot of different ways.
Excellent. Mike Howard, CSO.ASISonline.org, Microsoft.com, still working.
Still working. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show.
It's been an honor.
And check out Mike at the CSO, what do you call it, the CSO Center? Center, yeah,
Yep.
right, on the floor tomorrow.
Yep.
And that last point of information he gave about sharing skill sets as opposed to job titles, great piece of advice. We'll be up in the next couple of minutes on another show here at ASIS 2017 on SecurityGuideTV.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Mr.
Thanks,
Mike.
sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.